Greetings, welcome to another Deckard Games YouTube thing. Now that Command & Conquer is celebrating its 25th anniversary and I've been playing the crap out of it, I felt compelled to revisit other Electronic Arts real-time strategy games. There's one that immediately pops up because it was one of the games that I got in my very first totally legit bootleg CD. I mean, look at this, MDK, KKnD, POD, and the Need for Speed 2. That is a whole bunch of letters. Look at that art style with some clip art pictures, cool fonts and colors, yes, my very first HP color printer. Ah dude, the 90s were an old other thing. And before you starting pulling your hair off, I owned all these games, the original ones I mean, so don't worry about that. Times were different and living a Robin Hood lifestyle was a thing back then. Regardless of all that, introducing Krush, Kill and Destroy, also known as KKnD, developed by Beam Software and published by Electronic Arts in March 5th of 1997 for MS-DOS and Windows 95 PCs. Looking at the box, we have the KKnD logo in this metal background, along with the Krush Kill and Destroy name. I guess Krush is now spelled with a K because it is red. The back of the box is pretty bland, letting you know that when the survivors emerge from their bunkers after years underground, they find that the world has changed. I mean, what survivors? What world, dang it? The back of the box says nothing. And we also have some screenshots of the game itself that, again, don't tell much. Inside the sleeve thing we have a black box, and inside the black box we have a substantial manual covering things like installing and running the game, along with some insights on what the hell happened. So now they tell you. And the last page says it is the last page, just in case you didn't notice it. Move along, there is nothing more to see, okay? No need to speak to me like that. In the same black box, we also get a jewel case which contains a disc that is compact, which contains data, which contains the game. So let's put this into an appropriate time period machine and give it a go. KKnD immediately starts with some 90s CGI where a missile is shot into a city, a cockroach goes underground, and apparently all hell breaks loose. Let's quickly hear the narrator explain what the box didn't.
The War of 2079 had no winners. Those who survived either scuttled to safety underground or were left outside to face radiation and mutagenic viruses. Over 60 years have passed, and now the two armies wish to own the surface. So, there is war. It is a war for land, for oil, for humanity, and it is for keeps.
Dude, the 90s CGI cutscenes are just awesome. I love that pixelized video look, takes me back to the good old days. After the awesome intro, we're presented with the main menu, which features all the main options like starting a new game, load a previous saved game, play a set of pre-configured missions, multiplayer for some multiplayer gaming, new missions and chaos mode, which are only present in the extreme version, and quit for quitting the game while stopping to crush, kill and destroy. So let's dive into a new game already. The player starts by choosing what faction it wants to play with, between the survivors who spent the last 60 years underground eating recycled food, according to the manual, and want to reclaim the surface.
This comm system seems to be holding up. We'll use it from now on. Well done on the training, Commander. You're young, but you've proven yourself.
Or the mutes, who are people, beasties, and plants that mutated at the surface, having a rough time in all these years.
KKnD, you have been a great hunter for many years. Time should be good now, but the Earth speaks and I am afraid of what I hear.
And what's better than 90s CGI, you may ask? 90s FMV, of course. That is awesome. So the game takes place in a post-apocalyptic setting where two factions are fighting for control over the few natural resources left. Each faction has its own campaign consisting of 15 missions each. As mentioned before, the player can choose between two factions that are at war for the last resources of the planet. The survivors, an army that relies on technology, and war machines in battle. Their weapons consist of foot soldiers and armored vehicles. And the mutes, who use evolved or mutated animals. I just can't forget the humongous crab with a missile launcher on its back. It is both hilarious and awesome. As expected, KKnD plays like a traditional real-time strategy game. The player clicks on units and then click again to order some orders like move and attack. But before that, a base needs to be constructed, maintained and defended. For this, the player needs to harvest the much needed resources, which in KKnD is only one: oil.
I'll take it.
The main objective in most of the missions is to destroy the opponent forces and infrastructures, although some new missions happen every so often, like escorting convoys through dangerous territory, surviving with limited armed forces and resources, or even rescue missions. Looking at the game, the inspiration in games like Command and Conquer is pretty much obvious. Nevertheless, KKnD has a few features which are new, like units that gain experience in combat. Yes, the more a unit engages in combat, the more powerful it gets. This doesn't mean it is undefeatable, just that it is more skilled than others, and that is an advantage. One of the things that I absolutely enjoy in KKnD is the user interface. In regular RTSs, the player needs to click on a certain building to then start a certain order, like building something or training units. In KKnD, the UI is located at the right of the screen and is always present regardless of where the player is situated in the game map. This means that new units can be trained or purchased while in battle, for example, which is super handy. I know that this can be a minor thing, but having all your options available everywhere at any time is a really handy feature. Not only that, having to build something doesn't require the player to click in the typical building characters. Those don't exist in KKnD. Again, the building menu is right there. Just click it and place the new building. From my experience with RTSs, this is one of the easiest UIs to use. Very simple and intuitive. Another aspect that I really enjoy in KKnD are the armed units themselves. While they don't bring anything new to the table when it comes to fighting strategy, having units, especially on the mutes faction, like giant scorpions that shoot a kind of green acid, and giant crabs with missile launchers on their back, it is just awesome. You cannot not like a crab with missiles, come on. They are no different than the tanks and 4x4s from the survivors. They produce the same kind of damage and whatnot, but again, I find it cool. In that manner, the opposing forces are pretty balanced. For each unit in one side corresponds another on the other side, providing for a good challenge. And speaking of challenge, put challenge on that. The AI of the opponent goes from easy in the first few missions to completely relentless in the later missions. If you want a challenge with an RTS game, you got it here. There are missions that I had to play over and over to beat them, and some were out of pure luck. One sometimes can get the feeling that the game is not fair, but hey, it's a game from the 90s. It's not supposed to be fair. Nothing was easy back then, so deal with it. Another thing that I clearly remember enjoying are the cutscenes, which are over the top and filled with humor.
We couldn't triangulate, but we quadrilateralized pentagonally. He's somewhere around
What?
the area on your
We couldn't
display.
triangulate, but
Fight your
we
desire to leave him where he is,
quadrilateralized
reborn,
pentagonally?
alive.
Come on, I can't even say it right. You can't make this stuff up. Technically, KKnD is above average. Sound is okay and nothing more than okay. Sound effects are what one could expect from a game from 1997, and I just can't get enough of that robotic voice saying Krush, Kill and Destroy. I can't say the same for the constant alrighty then. Not that I don't like it, but I just can't get Ace Ventura off of my mind.
Alrighty then. Alrighty then. Alrighty then. Alrighty then.
As for the music, well, it is pretty cool. The game has some metal-inspired tunes, and I just like it. I think it suits the mood of giant machines fighting giant crabs with missiles. Graphics-wise, the crisp Super VGA graphics allow for some very cool maps with great terrain detail. As for the units and buildings, well, they could be more detailed. There are games from that same time period that do better than KKnD in this department. I remember Krush, Kill and Destroy being a lot of fun, and now that I'm replaying it, I think I was correct. Do I recommend KKnD? Yes, I do. If you like games like Command & Conquer and Warcraft 2, you will enjoy KKnD. No, it is not as good as those two games, but it is an enjoyable one. And while on the topic of enjoyment, did you subscribe to the channel already? No? Well, please do so because I have a lot of more videos that you can hopefully enjoy. Leave a like in this one and don't forget that you can follow me on the various social media networks that exist for some social media stuff. As always, thank you very much for watching this, and until my next video, take care.